Hi there. Let's make some fancy pins. So I got a couple of packs of these. These are all the rage right now. So I'm going to show you how we're going to do this. So I've got one already pulled apart, but let me show you how I got there first. So you're going to have this that we need off the clip there. I'll warn you now, this is probably one of my most Southern engineered videos I've ever made. So I'm just going to twist that off. I'm going to file that down in just a minute. But you just kind of untwist that and then let all the stuff come out, including the little cap right there. We're going to set that aside somewhere safe so that none of the parts get lost. And then we're going to sand this down with our sandpaper. Just like that until it's smooth. So I've got this one that I've already done. I went ahead and sanded the base of the rest of it. And now here's where it gets a little Southern engineered. Somebody had posted on one of the groups asking how people were attaching these, and someone said, I just use a pencil. Look at that. Genius. It's so good. It's on there nice and snug. Put it on there however far you want to give it a really secure fit. Then what I did is I took electrical tape and wrapped it on this end as much as I needed to fit the diameter of my slowest moving turner. It's like 3 to 4 RPMs. I didn't want to use one of my fast ones because with this having such a small circumference, it's going to really feel like it's moving fast if it's on a regular 5 to 6 RPM. So this thing, you can't even see that it's moving. So I'm going to turn it off because apparently it was on just now. That's what the inside looks like. So I'm going to take this, just work it in there. Not too far where I can't get it back out, but far enough that it gives me this space here. Now I'm probably going to have to deal with some leveling issues because that has a lot of play, but we're going to wait and see how this works out. So I'm going to mix up some epoxy, and then we'll do a really thin layer, just like you would epoxy method a cup. If you want, so I'm actually going to do a dark glitter, but if you wanted, you could go ahead and spray paint this. In fact, I'll probably go ahead and do a spray painted one also just for giggles. I have 5 milliliters mixed up. It is incredibly bubbly because it's really cold here right now, and my heater decided to just now stop doing what it normally does. So I don't know what's going on there. So I'm just going to put a super duper thin layer of epoxy on here, just like you're doing a normal tumbler. Don't forget the ends here. And then I'm going to load it up with Maleficent, which is a holographic fine. I don't know what the exact cut is, but it's very fine glitter from Fran's Glitter and More. I'll post a link in the description. If you've never bought from her, she's great. I like her a lot. It'll get you $5 off your first purchase. So just nice and thin. If it's too thick, it will create these little oil slick looking spots, just like it will on your tumbler. So I'm just going to put that in there for a second. All right. Maleficent from France. It's really pretty. This isn't going to do any justice, believe me. It's one of my favorite blacks. When I don't need a black, if it's okay that it has a color cast or throws color, that's my favorite. Watch for any spots that look like they need more glitter, just in case you did get a little too much. I almost always get too much in one spot. Normally on a tumbler, you would let it spin for a couple minutes before doing your glitter to kind of let your epoxy level out and kind of avoid those little streaks. Ooh, I whacked it. That's not really as easy with this. Not impossible though. Tap, tap, tap. There we go. So cute. So since I'm using a fast set epoxy, I'm only going to let this turn for like, I don't know, 30 minutes or so, maybe 40. It's super thin, so you don't even need it to do much. Since I did it in my hand just now that way, kind of like you would the hang method, I really don't need a super slow turner. That was really, my thinking behind that was more of me doing this. It was going to be easier if it was running slow. But I kind of decided midway through that it was probably just as easy to do it the other way. So now we're going to do a light colored one. I've got more than enough epoxy. And I've got this kind of rigged with some padding right here so that I can prop up my next pen like this. I'm going to tape it on there like that. I know it's kind of risky having them so close to each other, but I think it'll be okay, especially if I tap this off really good. Nothing fell that I could see, so that'll be good. So we're going to do a little bit lighter color. For this one, I'm going to use Masquerade Fine. This isn't exactly what it looks like in the bottle. It's so pretty. It's a little bit blue, a little bit purple, a little bit fuchsia. So once again, just super thin around the whole thing. And you can do your base color to match closer to your glitter color, just like you do your cups, of course. I just grabbed white. I'm surprised I was able to spray paint at all. It's really cold and really windy right now. It's not a perfect paint job. That's okay. It shouldn't show, like, at all. You ever have those days that it just feels like it takes forever to do even the simplest thing? That's me right now. And I am like scraping my epoxy this direction so that I avoid getting a lot of buildup right there. And I do have a little bit too much epoxy on here because it's so thick right now because it's cold. It's not the end of the world at all. That just means I'll end up putting more glitter on here than I intended. All right, so we've got it covered. You can't really see it on screen because of the coloring. Isn't that pretty? It's like teal and purple and blue. I'm thinking that my name is gonna have to go on these or they're gonna vanish at work. I could totally see that happening. We love pens. Every single one of us has a whole collection of our favorites. And then we have the ones that other people can use that we can disinfect. So what I'm going to do before I shake this off, or before I attach this to here, I'm going to let it kind of settle in to make sure I don't end up with any oily spots that the epoxy was too thick, where the glitter will just soak right in. But that's what it looks like for starters. That's the top where the little clicker is, and that's the bottom. And I'll of course tap it, both of them, really, really well before attaching anything here. So this is my Southern engineered hack of doing multiple pins on the same arm. Honestly, this is on here so thin that you probably don't even need to turn these. You could probably straight do it hang method and be fine. I actually almost have that touching that foam. Whew, that was close. So I'm just going to let this turn for good measure just because it is the fast set, but it is really cold out here, so that epoxy is not really going anywhere. But the flip side to that coin is it won't cure properly. So I have my shop light handy that I'm going to turn it over on here and let this rotate. That shop light will warm the epoxy, and so that's when it could start to drip or slide or move or whatever. But that will help avoid that. So this spun last night, I don't know, like 20 minutes, not too long. I have a little bit of epoxy mixed up. Smallest amount I can finagle is 5 milliliters. So now we're just going to treat it like a cup, and we are going to coat it really nicely. This I do want nice and thick, just like you would over your glitter any other time. If I'm lucky enough, I get it on here thick and smooth enough, I can decal right on top of this, but we'll see. It may need a little bit more. So I'm just going to finish epoxying this, and I'm going to put my shop light back on it. It's actually not that cold in here right now, but it is kind of below the normal curing temps. I got a new heater at Costco, and I turned it on maybe 15 minutes ago, and my shed has already gone from 54 to 60, and that thing doesn't make any sound. It's magical. I'm really excited. Normally, I have a heater literally blowing on me just right here off camera, and you can almost always hear it when it's on. So I'm looking forward to having a little toasty outpost here. So that's all. I'm going to do a little bit more on here, make sure it's nice and level. But like I said, I had spray painted this with clear coat, and then started on the epoxy after it dried. This is going to turn just like it did last night. I'm going to let it go a little longer this time because it is thicker. But one thing, if you do decide to do it this way, keep an eye on how level these are. Otherwise, you'll end up with a weird little lip. And if you aren't using a fast set, depending on how long it goes, it could end up dripping and all that good stuff. So definitely keep an eye on that. I don't usually show this part of the process because I'm not very good. I'm very slow at it. But I like to make it where I can see what I'm doing a little easier. It defaults to a transparent background with just a red outline in this Silhouette Studio. I like to make mine either a solid color with a different colored background, like a contrasting outline, I mean. And so I can see if my letters have welded properly, or I make it all solid like this. So this is in the last font I was just playing with. And I'm going to make it big so I can see what I've got here. So what I like to do when I'm trying to decide on fonts is just look at the different ways it types out. Because like this one is all lowercase, but really fun. Kind of Christmas elfy looking to me. This one, kind of tilted. There's just so many different ones. So I like to play with this. Keep in mind, if you're going to do something teeny tiny on these pens, it is harder to cut whenever you shrink this down to that size. This is the size we need that won't wrap around the pen completely. This will take up about half-ish of the diameter around the pen. So that's going to be really difficult to cut in a lot of situations, or in a lot of text. So I just play with it, kind of see what I like, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so the other pen, I'm going to use this one. It's called Loki Cola. The only disadvantage to this one is that it doesn't have the connections right there, and that kind of drives me nuts. So what I'm going to do is modify these points right here. Oops. I'm going to simplify it. And this one also, because I need them both to connect. What that's going to do is take some of these editing points away. And I'm just going to kind of drag this to connect with that. Just like that. This one's a little trickier because of that. So I'm going to zoom in to make this a little easier. Okay, so that's not perfect, but whenever it's shrunk as far as it's gonna be, it's not gonna really be that noticeable. It'll be a lot smoother. So now what I need to do is weld all of these together. And now it won't cut each of those individually. And I didn't weld these. That will make sure that it cuts as one continuous outline rather than having everything broken down. So now we're going to shrink it back down. Got to group this since that J is not connected. And we're going to shrink it down. It can be a little bit more than a ½ inch, but really not much more. Yeah, so that's what I'm looking at here. So now I'm going to get my mat and my vinyl set up and then get it cut out and apply it. So you can kind of see the outline. I did 2 of each. So we are going to weed them now. Just very slowly pull off the major part. Kind of keep an eye on your letters that you're doing to make sure that you're not accidentally ripping them up. This is a handy little pin. It's called a weeding pin. I got it from Wicked Shimmer Supply. I've seen it on a couple other sites. I can't remember right this second where all I've seen them. It's just a couple bucks. Sometimes I use a straight pin. Sometimes I use my weeding tool from my Cricut supplies. It just really depends on what I've got within reach and what kind of project I'm working on. I'm just going to pop that out just like that. I apologize if you're seeing this and you're like, I already know how to do that. I do feel like a lot of times it's taken for granted that everybody knows how to do certain things. So I'm going to try and get better at being a little bit more detailed. So now what I want to do is cut this like that because I don't want my transfer tape to end up getting on my other piece. So I'm going to grab something to smooth it out. Actually like this. This is something that came with our stovetop cleaner. It's a great scraper. It's got a nice edge on it. So I'm just gonna lift this part of the way. Do that just like that. I'm avoiding this completely. This is called burnishing, if you didn't already know. Just gonna get that on there. Just like that. So I'm stopping this video right here. You'll notice it's a different pen. Totally. This is the bottom, y'all. So I put it on the bottom. I clearly just had it backwards in my head. So, I mean, you could put them there, but I don't want it there. So I took off what I had on here. And this is exactly why I cut doubles, is because I've already messed up the one of the font for the other, and then I had to take it off the second. So I've actually ruined both of those. So up here is where the little clicky goes. So I'm doing this with my J up top. So this is kind of upside down. And rub it on there. Just like that. And some people will let the Oracle just sit overnight. Some people are successful going straight on doing epoxy. I have lifting every time. So what I'm going to do is throw on a glove, and I'm going to throw some UV resin right on top of that vinyl. This is a little hack that Ren had mentioned. I don't remember if it was in the group or on a comment or during a live. I don't remember. I just know that I got this idea from her. So thin layer just like that. I'm gonna grab my little light from Amazon and run it on the cycle, the higher cycle, the longest running cycle, I should say. It's 99 seconds. I'm gonna run that on there twice, just so that it cures that really, really well before we epoxy right after. All right, we're ready for our epoxy now. This should be the very last step. The only the only exception would be if for some reason it was still lumpy. But overall, we're pretty much done. But I'm not gonna double stack on here like I was earlier. That was kind of tricky. Plus I have to redo the other one anyways. So this will have plenty of time to set up pretty good before I do that. Try not to scrape any here, and that could accidentally epoxy your pen cover to your rod, your dowel rod, your pencil, whatever it is you're using as your jig. Don't forget the ends right there. Also, if you need to, you can sand right there on the ends to kind of smooth it out. I use a fingernail file sometimes, just for something real minimal. When I put my heat lamp on here, this is also going to help it smooth out. It's still cold in here. It's January, so kind of unavoidable, but it's pretty good. All done. I left this turning with my shop light on it for the last 2 hours. It's hard, but I went ahead and threw a glove on just so that I don't accidentally leave fingerprints on it, just in case it's not as cured as I think it is. But that's where we are. So now we're going to get all of our pieces over here off to the side. We've got the clicker, the doohickey that goes under the clicker. That's a technical term. And then the ink and that. And then this end piece here. Ta-da! It's pretty perfect. I'll definitely be taking this to work tomorrow. Great teacher gifts. I actually just saw somebody post one that looked like a pencil. It was so cute. It was pink, and then the silver, and the yellow, and a little brown, and then this was the lead. Super cute. Okay, if you just heard that weird squawking sound, my chicken is right outside my door. That was weird. Yeah, so hope you get a chance to make tons of these. They're really easy. Pins themselves cost about $1 a piece, but that's not so bad for a gift. Pretty good. If you like my videos, please consider subscribing and turn on notifications.